Today's webinar will be about a new database that has been launched recently in the Web of Science. It's called Research Commons, and you will see different characteristics of this database, but also why we have this new database now in the Web of Science. So when we look at the history or the development of the Web of Science, in terms of history, so there's been a lot of debates, but also feedbacks about the content that we have in the Web of Science. We listen to your voice, and for decades we have continuously expanded the Web of Science platform to include more journals, more research output types to meet your needs. For instance, we created the world's first data citation index in 2012. We expanded the journals covered in the core collection in 2015 with the emerging source citation index. And more recently, we added other types of content such as preprints, dissertations, awarded grants, policy documents to the Web of Science platform. The approach that we use here has always been the following. So we've added sources that meet our editorial policies within the core collection. But we also introduced complementary databases to the platform to support use cases that require additional type of content or different types of literature. So here's a list of dates or periods. So this is quite early in 2000s. You could see few regional databases on top of the data citation index, 2015 emerging source citation index, and more recently the Arabic citation index in 2020, and a little bit later preprint citation index and ProQuest dissertation and thesis, and then grants index, policy citation index. The latest development in 2025 is Research Commons, and that comes with an interesting number of research publications, more than 32 million publications from different open sources. And at the same time, you might have noticed also that you can use Web of Science in different languages, Chinese, Korean, Arabic, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, and so on. So when you look at the platform, what we've done, we also introduced recently the Research Commons collection. So that's a new standalone database for the Web of Science subscribers. So people who have access to the Web of Science. That brings extra content, new content from open metadata sources. And that sits alongside the Web of Science core collection. So Web of Science core collection is composed of these indices, right? But now we have, on top of the other satellite databases, we have also the Research Commons. So there is an important element when you look at different platforms, different databases, that not all these databases have been created same, right? The coverage of data, the metadata, and so on. And that's what I'm saying here. Not all databases are created equally. If we look at Web of Science core collection that has been created in the early 60s, end of the 50s by ISI, which was later on part of Thomson Scientific, which became part of Thomson Reuters. And now Web of Science is a product of Clarivate. When we look at Web of Science core collection, when we look at the criteria, there is a list of criteria that all journals have to respect, match, 28, 24 related to quality and 4 related to impact. We get the content directly from the sources. There's no third-party data. There's consistent indexing, strict policies and procedures. The journals are indexed cover to cover. We use automated and manual techniques. And also we index all the authors, affiliations, cited references. Funding data goes back to 2008, and you'll see different coverage in terms of disciplines. Just one moment. So what we're doing to build the Web of Science core collection is really high quality content, but also very well structured into the database. And the Web of Science is not just one database, it's also, as I mentioned earlier in my previous slide, different databases that exist within the platform. So we have like a connected system, ecosystem in the platform where you'll see different types of content. So of course, in science, we speak a lot about journal articles, conference papers, but there's more to that. Dissertation and thesis, preprints, data sets, patents, books, grants, and policy documents. What you'll see in patents also very interesting type of content when it comes to technology, to identify patents that build on your published research, for instance, right? You'll see also open science data, the open access, but also you'll see some content related to your young researchers, even PhD students or master students when it comes to dissertation and thesis. When you look at the platform, you'll see a very broad and diverse ecosystem that help you, when you use the citation network, follow the development of ideas. And this is also quite helpful to establish connections between previous publications and existing current publications. So if you look at this publication from 1982, it's been cited quite a number of times, more than 6,000, but you'll see the breakdown, right? You'll see the breakdown of the citations, one coming from Arabic Citation Index, more than 1,000 in BioSys, and so on. 54 from patents, 2 from policy documents, and 217 from research comments. So citations, as we're saying, is they're more than just a number. They also follow the build-up, basically how the database or how an article, or a publication has been developed over time. Of course, you can also use this citation to demonstrate your impact. You can use, for instance, citation from policy documents to demonstrate, or as a proxy of societal impact, or citation from the Widen Innovation Index as a proxy measure of technological impact, and so on. Now, what we want to do with citation from research comments is obviously also widen your lens by looking at open source research publications. So when we look at Research Commons, which is the new database, the most recent launched database in the Web of Science, I want to give you a few numbers to characterize a little bit the content that comes with this database. So this database brings more than 33 million additional records on the Web of Science platform. There is 21% more journal content. There's 53% from that output from published by researchers working in the global south. I don't really like this term. It's more like the emerging, developing countries, if we can call them this way. And we use the metadata to come up with those statistics. And there is also, out of these 33 million publications, 43% of them are in social sciences, arts, and humanities. It's quite interesting to use this database so that you use or you consult a more comprehensive set of research on a specific topic of interest within the platform, within the Web of Science. So obviously, once you have more content, first thing you can do with that is to get more publication, more results within the platform, especially in the social sciences, arts, humanities, and also content from other parts of the world. You will, the second pillar is the flexible discovery, where you're gonna prioritize quality or breadth based on your needs. So you have that flexibility. If you want to look at quality or content that has high quality, published in high quality journals, respecting a set of, publishing standards, then can go to Web of Science core collection. But you might also be interested in having more content to be more inclusive. So if you want to prioritize breadth, then you can simply get more content by exploring or searching in other databases like Research Commons. You can add it to your search query in searching across all databases. And once you have more data, of course, you can tell a broader story to conduct a comprehensive evaluation by being more inclusive. I want to use an example, a country in the region. I want to look at Iran. And interestingly, if we look at the output of researchers from Iran, in the Web of Science, we find quite a lot of content. If we just look at Web of Science core collection, there's about 900,000 publications. But Research Commons comes with more than 110,000. So that's more than, so it's about 12%. And you end up with 1 million publications. And when we look at that, you'll see more local titles that are not necessarily indexed in the Web of Science core collection, but not only local sources, local journals, but also more local topics, and obviously more local voices heard. So that is an interesting case. You can do the same for any country. You go to the Web of Science, you search on the address field, you put your country of interest, and you do an analysis by database. I'll show you how to do that later on. Let's actually do it now. I think that will be. So if I say all databases, so now in Web of Science, you'll see Research Commons is there as a new database going back to 2015. And if I do a search on address, right, and let's say, let's do Morocco, we'll do another country. And I want to see all databases. I get 171. And you see Web of Science core collection 125. Research Commons 14,000, right? So in this case, it's even it's about 11, 12%. I could do another country of the region. Let's do Pakistan, for example. Right, 509, 10, and 382 from Web of Science core collection. So what we call index journals with conference factor impact factor, but also conference proceedings and books. So that's what we mean by Web of Science core collection: journals, conference proceedings, and books. And here in this case, we see 42,000 So it's about 8% of the total output. Let's see, for example, Saudi Arabia, 634, and we get about 30,000 out of 634. So these are few analysis we can do to see the proportion of the output, the publications we find in Research Commons compared to other classic databases. So I've shown that already live in the platform, Research Commons with description going back to 2015. An interesting quote from an information resources officer in the US, Arizona. Adding more to Web of Science is always going to be a good thing as long as people can get to the data that they want. And that's really the logic. Research Commons is a collection that sits outside the Web of Science core collection, as I shown earlier, right? So you can search directly in this database, or you can do what we call a siloed search of Research Commons, or include the content in the broad search of all databases on the platform, as I was doing earlier. You just search for all databases, right? And the database is a filter by itself. So you can start from all databases. You're going to see, you know, journals, conference proceedings, books from core collection, but also preprints, patents, dissertation and thesis, regional databases, research comments, and of course you can filter at that time. So what we're doing in this database, we also curate the data. So remember, this is a paper published in Biometrical Investigation in Industry. It's not an index journal in core collection. It is an article. But what we do is we try to clean the data and curate the data, and we say Uni of Iceland. We know that in the core collection, that's University of Iceland. So that's what we mean by unifying organization names using Web of Science preferred name. What we're doing also is that we're linking the research content, so RC content, to the Web of Science network, so that you can navigate the citation navigation other WOS database. And also what we're planning to do is to bring in the Web of Science subject categories and Web of Science research areas for Research Commons as well. So these are a few developments that we're making in the platform. So lots of developments, lots of improvements are coming soon for this database. But yeah, so based on what has been done for other databases like core collection, the affiliation unification or the unified names for addresses, linkages of citations, but also the classification. These are examples of improvements we're making for this content. Yeah, so stay tuned. There are lots of developments on this content coming soon. The few things you can also do. Here you can see an example of an author affiliation being mapped to the standardized affiliation name, right? So you can see here, Uni of Iceland. We know that in the core collection in the other database, that refers to University of Iceland, and we do the same in this database. And what's interesting, I mean, of course, you could do some analysis to see your output in different databases, right? So if I do a search on Iceland, and I do a filter on University of Iceland, I can see the breakdown, right? And that's quite interesting. 25,000 papers in index journals, conference proceedings, and books, but also almost 1,000 in this database, which wouldn't be seen if you just limit yourself to the Web of Science core collection. If you look at the whole country, Iceland, 41,000 in Web of Science core collection, but more than 1,500 in research commons. You will see that by default, if you've paid attention to the previous search query I ran in the Web of Science, by default, we exclude preprints and research commons, right? So that brings you some flexibility. Preprints are typically manuscripts that haven't been peer-reviewed yet, but they are still interesting. And you can do the same with research commons. So again, this is content openly available, but that doesn't match the Web of Science core collection. If you look at a topic like artificial intelligence, right, you find almost 2 million papers, mainly in spec, but also core collection. And you see 8% of that content in research commons. Of course, that content, you can also add it to your profile, right? So same as preprints or like non-indexed documents, you can add papers from research commons to your profile. And you will see when you look at a record like this is a publication. In the top would have this tag, which says this is a paper indexed in research commons. So this is something you can do as well in the Web of Science. Before doing a live demo, I want to put the Web of Science core collection side by side with research commons. I mentioned that several times. In the core collection, we're talking about journals, books, and conference proceedings. When we see indexed journals with impact factor, that means journal in the Web of Science core collection. Research commons is only journals. To appear or to be indexed in the Web of Science core collection, this type of content, journals, books, proceedings, have to go through an editorial selection and curation. We capture, so here there is no editorial selection and there is no curation. Bibliographic data is captured directly from the source in the case of Web of Science core collection. Here it's data from open sources, Crossref and OpenAlex. Research integrity with quality control and retraction visibility powered by Retraction Watch. That's what we do to maintain the high quality standards of Web of Science core collection. Here there is no research integrity control in place. High quality metadata achieved through lots of indexing policies and standards, speaking about the addresses, the funding information, and so on. Grant data as well. Here it's relatively low quality metadata, very often incomplete or missing due to quality of data in open sources. So as I said earlier, those databases are built differently, and this is an example of a major difference. What we've done in the Web of Science core collection over the years is also to enhance the metadata. I mentioned that already several times. Unification of address names, organizations, the researchers, classification of the paper, and so on. The goal is to be confident when you conduct some analysis. In this case, research data is quite volatile. Try to enhance the data when possible. The coverage goes back to 1900 for core collection. This database is more recent and much smaller. It goes back to 2015. And 100% of bibliographic data and cited references. Here, again, we rely on open sources. And of course, if you want the highest level of indexing and analysis, searching, and so on, you will see that each database come We call that tags or field tags. TS stands for topic in both cases. But you can see that in the core collection, you can conduct some very precise search queries compared to research comments, which is quite limited in terms of fields, right? So for example, the citation topic exists only for core collection. We don't have them here. This is a classification at the paper level. And if you need reliable analysis, you can analyze results in core collection, right? You can do some analysis by country, by titles, by publication year, and so on. In research comments, it's going to be more limited in terms of analysis you can conduct. So I'll show you a few examples now. It's time to do a live demo. I'll have a look at the chat and the Q&A to see if there's any questions so far. Okay, I missed your message, Prince, asking, can you please revise the slides quickly from starting? I missed it. You'll get the presentation and you will also have access to the recording anyway. All right. Good. So I've done a quick search earlier. I will just go back to the Web of Science to search in the research comments. You go to advanced search, right? And you will see that you can specify the database you can search or you want to search in. So here, that's the drop down I was showing earlier in my presentation, where you have all the databases. So I have access to all databases. In your case, your access might be different based on your subscription. Research Commons appears here. Web of Science core collection is in the top, and then you have all the databases that I was showing in one of my slides where I had the different collections, different databases. In front of each database, you'll have a description, as you can see, 2015. It's data from open sources that can improve the discovery of items not otherwise indexed on the other databases, the Web of Science platform. It's multidisciplinary, connected to the Web of Science citation network, and you can search directly or via the all databases search option. That's what I will do. Typically, I will just clear this search and I'll do a topic search. If I do a search on, let's have a look, coronavirus. And you see by default, we excluded preprint in this database. I want to include them. We jumped from 400 plus to more than 600,000. And we can see the breakdown, right? We can see the breakdown. Out of 617, there are 141, that's massive, 141,000 publications from this database. So let me go back to my search. And you see also some records have like chemical information available and so on. If I open one from Research Commons, let's see, to show you an example, you will see that those papers have this tag, Research Commons. Quite similar to, if I do this, let me show you, Research Commons, and then preprints. Yeah, you'll have Research Commons tag. If I take this one, okay, so this one has been published, right? So you get the some information about the indexation of the paper. What I want to show you is the following. If I do this preprint, you'll also get the same type of information for preprints. Okay. So for now, I will just stick to research comment is fine. And of course, we'll capture the citations as we do for the other one. So this one, if I look at one specifically, and see. So these are some records that are in Web of Science core collection and at the same time in research commons, like open access papers. Let me see. If I take, yeah, there was one here. If I take this one, so 984 citations, right? So of course we take the metadata that we get from the open data sources. So title, the authors, the source, volume number, issue number, page numbers, DOI, the publication date when we indexed. So research commons being quite recent, as you can see. So these are papers that have been added to the database quite recently. Okay. So this is a search on a topic, but if I want to do directly and say I want to search in those open data sources, I could do the same. And you see the fields now are different. So these are the fields available for this database, right? So I can do a topic search, title search, author search, and so on. I can search in the abstract, accession number, and so on. But if I look at core collection, you will see that the database is much bigger and has more content. Okay. So I could do that for any, let's say, research commons and say, if I look at an address, and now I look at Egypt, for instance. So I can see that these are the number of papers in for Egypt in Research Commons. Okay, I can see the publication titles. We don't always have the source, but I can see the affiliations, right? So if I take this one, let's see what we have here. So you see, we use the data that we have in core collection. So Dhaka Uni from Bangladesh, that's Dhaka University of Engineering and Technology. Unif Tabuk, that's in Saudi Arabia, and so on. Okay. I couldn't go like this as well. Let me see this one. Right, so I can see other institutions. So these are typically collaboration between Egypt and other institution in Vietnam. Looks like it's the same university, but two different departments or faculty or colleges. So as I said earlier, you can see the number of times this paper has been cited in Research Commons, but also, right, the breakdown by database. So this paper was cited 3 times from content, journals, conference proceeding, or journals within, and the rest of the citations are coming from the same database it is indexed in. So Research Commons. If I go back to my previous search, you will see here very soon, we're working on that, the fields, like the Web of Science category, research areas. So we're working on that. Of course, if you look at, let's have a look at an author. So I can do a search on an author, right? So that's also possible. If I look at this person, and you can also add this to your profile. So for example, here, I could say, well, let's imagine I'm Amiri here, and I can add that to my researcher profile. Okay. Then if you look at your profile, you will see your profile with the distinction. So you'll see all the documents, and then you will see a distinction between where the document is indexed. So I have 12 documents, 6 Web of Science, 6 journal articles, actually 5 plus 1 conference putting in Web of Science core collection, 5 preprints, and 1 PhD dissertation. So you can see that my content is across 3 databases. If one day I publish a paper that is not indexed in the core collection, it's not a preprint, it's not a dissertation, and it's in an open journal that we have in Research Commons, it will appear here as one paper in Research Commons. Okay, so you can also add that. I conducted a session about that recently. You can add publications. So the only thing you have to do, so now Web of Science is trying to find, it didn't find anything, but I can add the DOI of the paper that you have in Research Commons, and then add it to your profile. You can also do that on different IDs, archive ID, title, PubMed ID, or if you use a reference management tool like EndNote or RefWorks and so on, you can export your publication and just come here and upload your RIS, BibTeX, or CSV file. And that will add your publication to your profile. Okay, I've covered everything I wanted to show you today. Do you have any questions? Let me have a look at the Q&A and the chat. Yeah, most welcome, Prince. Again, you'll have the presentation and access to the recording. Let me have a look at the chat. Is there any questions on what we've seen today? Okay, I don't see any questions. Two questions came up. First one, Tibakania Joseph is asking, do I have limits in terms of access when I have university access, or I can access similar information just as you did? Yeah, so the database here that you will see depend on the subscription of your institution, but you will see Web of Science core collection is going to be there. For academic institutions, you will see Korean, Medline, preprint, ProQuest dissertation and thesis, Research Commons as well for universities. For the rest, it depends on the interest of the institution, if they want or if they need access to patents and so on. So it's it depends on the access. Yeah. Another questions, which is the following: would Research Commons database remain to be excluded from the results when we search in all other databases? Yeah. So if I do a search on topics here, by default, right, they're excluded, but you're free to include them, to include preprints and content coming from other databases. So either you just you include them one by one, right? Or you include everything. So, but by default, yes. Yeah, the reason on preprint is because a preprint by definition hasn't been peer reviewed yet, especially the first version of a preprint. We might have multiple versions that went through some revision rounds. And for the Research Commons, as I mentioned earlier, the quality, there's no quality control, at least from our end. So it's up to you. And you will see that each and every publication would have the database where it is indexed. So you will be able to see that as well. Yeah, very, very interesting questions. Yeah, most welcome. I don't see other questions. Okay. If no other questions, what I will do, I will share the presentation. First of all, your certificate of participation as soon as possible the presentation and the link to the recording. You will get my contact details, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to send an email, and I will respond as soon as possible. Thank you for now, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.